The Topkapi Palace was a world of silk and gold, but beneath the beauty, it was a cage. I was Mahidevran, the rose of spring. My son Mustafa was the heir to the throne. I was the favorite of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. My life was calm, like a peaceful garden. I believed my future was secure. The Sultan's love was my son, and my son was the moon that followed. I walked the marble halls with pride, feeling the weight of my position. The harem bowed to me, and their respect was a soft cushion for my heart. I thought this world, this power was mine forever. I did not know a storm was coming to destroy my perfect garden. Then she arrived, a girl from a distant land, captured and brought to the palace. Her name was Alexandra, but soon she would be called Hurrem. She was not like us. She had fire in her eyes and a spirit that refused to be broken. At first, she was just another face in the crowded harem, another girl hoping for a glance from the Sultan. But Hurrem was different. She did not just hope, she planned. She learned our language, our customs, and our weaknesses. She understood that to survive here, you had to be more than just beautiful. You had to be clever, and you had to be ruthless. She was a small flame, but she was growing brighter every day. The Sultan saw her fire. He was drawn to her laughter and her sharp mind. Soon, his nights were spent with her. His poems were written for her. My peaceful world began to crumble. The whispers in the harem changed. They were no longer about me, the mother of the heir. They were about Hurrem, the new favorite, the laughing one. Every gift he gave her was a stone thrown at me. Every smile he shared with her was a cloud covering my son. I was no longer the center of his universe. I was becoming a memory, a ghost in the palace I once ruled. The fear was cold, and it wrapped around my heart like a snake. Our rivalry was not just about love. It was a fight for survival. In the Ottoman palace, a woman's power came from the Sultan's favor and her sons. I had the heir, but Hurrem had the Sultan's heart. This was a dangerous balance. If she gave him a son, my own child's position would be threatened. The harem became a battlefield. Every glance was a challenge. Every word was a weapon. We were two women in a golden cage, fighting for the ultimate prize, the future of the empire itself. Our private war would soon spill out of the harem and stain the entire palace with its darkness. My fear grew with each passing day. It was a poison that seeped into my soul. Hurrem was no longer just a favorite. She was becoming a force of nature. The Sultan broke traditions for her. He married her, making her his legal wife. This was unheard of. It was a slap in the face to centuries of custom and a direct insult to me. I was the mother of his firstborn son, yet she was the one with the ring on her finger. The harem was in shock. I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. The power I once held so securely was slipping through my fingers like sand. My nights were sleepless, filled with visions of Hurrem on a throne beside the Sultan, and my son cast aside. Desperation is a cruel master. It makes you do things you never thought you would. I watched Hurrem's influence grow and my own world shrink. She gave the Sultan son after son, securing her place in his heart and in the dynasty. My Mustafa was still the eldest, but the palace was now full of her princes. I started to see enemies everywhere. I saw them in the eyes of the servants who now bowed lower to her. I saw them in the smiles of the pashas who sought her favor. The palace, once my home, felt like a prison filled with Hurrem's spies. My fear turned to anger, a burning fire that demanded action before I was completely extinguished. I knew I had to fight back. My son's life and future depended on it. I began to listen to the dark whispers in the corners of the palace. I sought out those who also feared Hurrem's rise. I found allies in the shadows, people who were loyal to the old ways and to my son. We started to plant seeds of doubt. We spread rumors about Hurrem, painting her as a foreign witch who had enchanted the Sultan. We said she was greedy for power and a danger to the empire. We hoped these stories would poison the Sultan's mind against her, just as her presence had poisoned my life. It was a dangerous game of words. But words were not enough. Hurrem was too smart. She always found a way to turn the situation to her advantage. My attempts to discredit her often backfired, making her look like a victim and making me look like a jealous, bitter woman. This only made the Sultan protect her more fiercely. My desperation grew into a frantic need to remove her physically. My plans became darker. I was no longer just fighting with whispers. I was starting to think about daggers. The fear for my son's future pushed me closer to a line I had never imagined crossing. I was ready to do anything to win this war. The air in the palace grew thick with secrets. Every corridor seemed to hold a hidden spy. Every tapestry seemed to hide a listening ear. This was the world our war created. I paid servants for information, bribing them with gold and promises of protection. I needed to know Hurrem's every move. Who did she meet? What did she say? Who were her allies? The coins I spent were an investment in my survival. My spies would tell me of her secret meetings, of the letters she sent, and the people she influenced. The palace became a web of intrigue, and I was one of its chief spiders, trying to catch my rival before she caught me. Spreading rumors was my first real weapon. I instructed my loyal ladies to whisper in the harem. They said Hurrem used dark magic to control the Sultan. They said her ambition would destroy the dynasty. We wanted to isolate her, to make everyone afraid of her. For a time it seemed to work. People looked at her with suspicion. They avoided her gaze. But Hurrem was a master of politics. She would counter my rumors with acts of charity, building hospitals and helping the poor. She created an image of a pious and caring woman, which made my accusations seem like the lies of a jealous rival. It was a constant battle of public perception. Then my desperation led me to a darker path. Words were failing, so I planned an attack. It was not meant to be a direct assault by my own hand, of course. That would be foolish. Instead, I arranged for a group of disgruntled former servants who had been dismissed because of Hurrem to ambush her in the palace gardens. It was a risky plan, born from fear and rage. The idea was to frighten her, to scar her, to remind her that she was vulnerable. I imagined her screaming, her perfect face ruined, her power broken. It was a terrible thought, but I felt I had no other choice. It was her or me. The attack failed. Hurrem, with her uncanny intelligence and network of loyal guards, was always one step ahead. She knew something was wrong. She changed her route at the last minute, and my ambush caught nothing but air. But the attempt itself was enough. She knew it came from me. There was no proof, but in the palace, proof was not always necessary. The suspicion was enough to condemn me in the Sultan's eyes. Instead of weakening her, my attack made her stronger. The Sultan increased her guards and punished those he suspected of disloyalty. I had tried to set a trap for her, but I had only tightened the cage around myself. Hurrem was not a woman who cowered in fear. She fought back not with brute force but with a brilliant mind. She used my own aggression against me. After the failed attack, she went to the Sultan not with accusations, but with tears and quiet fear. She played the part of the innocent victim perfectly. She let him connect the dots himself. He saw my jealousy, my rage, and he saw her as a loyal wife under threat. She never had to point a finger at me. The Sultan's own heart did the work for her. Every move I made to destroy her only bound her closer to him and pushed me further away into the cold, lonely darkness. Her intelligence was her sharpest sword. She knew the palace was a game of chess, and she could see 10 moves ahead. While I was focused on her, she was focused on the entire board. She built powerful alliances with pashas and viziers, especially with Rustam Pasha, whom she later made her son-in-law. These men owed their careers to her. They became her eyes and ears in the divan, the imperial council. She influenced state policy from behind the harem walls, something no woman had ever done before. She was not just fighting for love. She was building an empire within an empire, a fortress of loyalty that I could never penetrate. My final defeat was not swift. It was a slow, painful erosion of everything I held dear. My son Mustafa was the people's favorite, a skilled warrior and a noble prince. But Hurrem and her allies used his popularity against him. They whispered to the Sultan that Mustafa was planning to usurp him, that his own son was a threat. They forged letters and created an atmosphere of paranoia. The Sultan, old and fearful of losing his power, eventually believed them. He had my beloved son, the hope of the empire, executed. With Mustafa's death, my last claim to power was gone. I had lost everything. Hurrem had won. Her victory was absolute, but it came at a great cost. Our rivalry scarred the palace and changed the course of the Ottoman Empire forever. The tradition of a sultan having many concubines and one heir from his favorite was broken. Hurrem's sons, not my Mustafa, would fight for the throne, leading to more bloodshed. She had secured her own survival and power, but the empire was left with the wounds of our war. The golden age was shadowed by the dark politics of the harem. We were two women who fought for love and power, and in the end, our struggle left an indelible mark on history. Could you have survived in such a world?